We've all heard of learning how to read and learning how to write, but maybe you've not heard of learning how to learn. But it makes perfect sense. Think about it. If there is a technique for learning how to cook and a technique for learning how to bake, then there should be a technique for learning how to learn. If you are watching this video presently, chances are this is not the first type of video on learning that you are watching. Maybe you've watched it in time past for your academics, or you've watched it for your job. So I bet you will be familiar with some of the things we will be saying here today. Alright, before we go into it, I'll give you one golden tip right from the start of the video. Watching YouTube is passive learning, and the only way to make it active is to, number one, get a book and pen. This will be used for jotting whatsoever you learn, whatsoever jumps at you from the video. Second one, make your mind an absolute theater. Imagine those things as we discuss them along the way. So those things we'll be saying in this video, imagine them, think about them, engage them with your thoughts and emotions. Lastly, ask questions as you watch the videos. For your questions, you can drop them in the comment section, and I promise you that I will attend to them when I see them. Learning how to learn. There are quite a lot of things that comes with this topic. Learning how to cook is separate. Learning how to make pastries is separate. Learning how to code is a separate topic. Why learning how to learn is the mother of them all. The full way to call it is actually not learning how to learn. Learning how to learn how to cook. Learning how to learn how to write. There is a technique you need to grow your YouTube channel. But there is another technique you need to learn for you to be able to learn the technique you need to grow your channel. Let's put that out of the way. But that's the true meaning, the deeper meaning of learning how to learn. So a lot of people have talked about this topic in the past. Channels have talked about these topics. They've dropped a lot of nugget of golds. They've left us with advice that will go a long way in helping us. For example, see what Ali Abda said about learning.
The more you learn how to learn effectively, the less time you spend studying for your exams, which means you actually have gallons and gallons of free time to do whatever else you want.
Check out what Jim Quick said. In case you don't know, Jim Quick is an absolute scientist, although scientists are not as recognized as they used to be in decades before. But I can tell you that this guy is a damn scientist. Jim Quick has this to say about learning and about how our brain works.
Your brain cannot multitask. Research shows that multitasking is actually not possible. It's more of a myth. What you're really doing is something called task switching.
But let's take a moment to explore the learning curve when it comes to learning a new skill, when it comes to learning anything new. Let's talk about the learning curve. You see, when learning a new thing, the learning curve is always steep. It is not horizontal, it is not vertical. It is steep. You see, the reason why it is called a learning curve and not a learning line is because each learning phase, each learning stage has its own difficulty. They vary. A beginner is experiencing a different difficulty level as opposed to an expert, or an early intermediate learner is experiencing a different difficulty as opposed to an advanced beginner. You see, we have early beginner, intermediate beginner, advanced beginner, early intermediate, advanced intermediate, early advanced, intermediate advanced, and advanced. And we have the expert level. Each of these phases has different difficulty. So this means that the stages you go through during a learning process are distinctly different. There is the initial stage when things are easy and you feel like, oh, I can pull this off. This is easy for me. I can learn this even quicker than others. You make mouths because everything seems easy. This is the initial stage. You are excited. Why is this thing taking people years to master? I can easily pull this off in 2 months. Everything feels very simple because that is the initial stage. But you see, the feeling of it is possible that you are experiencing at the initial stage is an ignorant feeling. You are experiencing that kind of feeling because you have not spent enough time with that thing for you to know how difficult it actually is to master. It is just like riding a bicycle. The moment your dad or your parents got you a bicycle, then you feel like, oh, this is very simple, I can pull this off. I just need to move the pedals up and down with my left and right legs, hold the bike, and off I go. Boom. But you notice that is the initial stage. You feel so excited about riding the bicycle. You feel that everything is easy for you. You just need to move the pedals. Even though you are falling down, you believe that you will learn it in no time. In a day, you believe you will learn it without any injury. That's the initial stage. You feel very excited. It is an ignorant feeling. It is because you've not fell down from the bike for you to know how dangerous or how difficult learning to ride a bicycle actually is. So as you now start to progress in trying to learn the bicycle, and you see that days are unfolding, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 8, day 9. So you start to feel like, oops, so learning a bicycle isn't that easy either. That is the next stage. You start to become aware of how difficult the task actually is. Then the next stage is where you feel so overwhelmed. And this is the stage where most people give up. It is called the death valley. If you have ever learned anything new before from scratch, you have passed through this stage. It is that stage when you feel like, I don't think this is my thing again. I just want to move on to another skill. I just want to move on to another concept. I'm not interested in learning this thing again. It is just too difficult. You imagine when you were given calculus then, and you start to experience some kind of difficulty. It feels so strange. You're like, I don't think I can ever learn this again. I'll just skip this topic to another topic. That's the death valley. The valley where most people give up. The valley where most people give up. I'll repeat that. That's the third stage in the learning curve. Now the next stage, which is the fourth stage in the learning curve, the optimistic stage. Only few people get there, unfortunately, because you need to get past the death valley for you to get to the optimistic stage. The optimistic stage is where you start to feel objective. You start to feel positive. Oh, I believe I can learn this now. I have seen how difficult this is, and I believe I can pull this off. The difference between this stage and the initial stage where you feel positive too is that the initial stage is an ignorance phase. You have not seen anything. You have not seen anything. So you just feel like you can learn this. You've not come across firsthand with the difficulty required to learn that skill. So you feel, I can pull this off. I just need to move the pedals and the bicycle will ride. You have seen how difficult riding a bicycle is, and now you now feel positive. So this time around, it is not an ignorance feeling. It is a well-informed feeling. And that's the first stage. But sadly, only few people get to this stage. Many people quit at the death valley. In the optimistic phase, you are not there yet, but you can fathom what it feels like to be there. You have not learned the skill yet. You have not learned how to ride the bicycle yet. You've not learned how to solve calculus yet. But you can already fathom that it is becoming more possible for you. But you can already fathom what it feels like to be able to solve calculus. You can already fathom what it feels like to be able to ride the bicycle. You can already fathom what it feels like to be able to master the skill, even though you have not yet mastered it, even though you have not yet learned it. It feels closer. It feels possible. That's it, optimistic phase. So this is just the learning phase. You see, these are the key elements that can up your learning game for you.
Spaced learning, active learning, repetition, counterintuitive learning, taking notes.
I'll make quick videos on each of these concepts for you later on.